Raila Amolo Odinga, son of Kenya's founding Vice President Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, is many things to many persons in many seasons. Unlike other sons and daughters who have stepped forward into the political arena, continuing from where their parents left, for Raila, his is a story of a self-made political giant who waded into the murky waters of politics, fighting in the trenches side by side with his aging father, painfully paid a price of failing to bury his own mother since he was in detention at the time, fighting for second liberation.
Wakati mama alipoaga, ndugu wangu mkubwa Dr. Oburu alinitumia mimi telegram kuniarifu ati mama ameondoka. Hiyo telegram ambayo alinitumia na vile vile akauliza serikali iniruhusu niweze kwenda kuzika mama yangu. Lakini tofauti na haya, hiyo telegram ilichukua miezi mitatu kabla hawajanipatia hiyo telegram. Kwa hivyo nilikuja kujua baada ya miezi mitatu ati mama alikuwa amefariki. Lakini nilikuwa nimeota kama ndoto nikiwa gerezani kitu kimefanyika kwa mama yangu.
As he steps in his sunset days, both biologically and politically, 80-year-old Odinga is no doubt a political giant whose shadow continues looming large, both within and beyond Kenya. His is a story of a man whose history continues to rewrite itself with every phase he steps into. In the 80s and early 90s, he was among the galaxy of progressive faces that put their lives on the line, agitating for multi-party democracy in Kenya. Charles Rubia, Kenneth Matiba and Raila Odinga were arrested and thrown into detention in the run-up to the first ever Sabasaba protests on 7th July 1990. The incarcerations were catastrophic. While in detention, Matiba suffered a stroke that he never recovered from, while Rubia lost his voice.
And I started having a goiter. You know a goiter? Goiter is something that comes out here. But for mine, it decided to go in.
As for Raila Odinga, it was his third detention without trial that adversely affected his health permanently. His eyesight was affected, which permanently tears, forcing him to always use a handkerchief.
I've also been in political detention for a long time. You saw me walk away from that place because of that light interferes with me, and you see my eyes sometimes watering because of the damages I suffered when I was in the detention and the poor lighting in detention. That is what damaged my eyes. Now, I have continued on this because I represent the force for change in the country.
A man who takes bold decisions that leave the country divided on whether he is a betrayer and self-seeker or a statesman and nation stabilizer. His actions that continue to remain mystic, handing him the moniker the Enigma, as his biographer described him.
People do not really understand. That is why they make it very simple. And it's very easy for them to write articles in newspapers. I read them and I just laugh. They tried to revelize what was a very serious situation. So what we have today is basically something that we were forced into because of the circumstances that were existing at that time. I want to invite somebody to tell me their own solution, how this would have been solved. We sacrificed so that there could be peace in this country. And that's the reason why we are here today. I do not regret what we did. We did it in the best interest of our country. And Kenya must move forward. But we have continued to say that we need to improve our governance structure.
Since 1997, with the exception of 2002, the opposition supremo has contested in all presidential elections and ended up in striking a consensus with the one holding power for political partnerships for the sake of the nation's cohesion. After the December 1997 general election, President Moi's ruling party KANU was walking a tightrope because of a nearly hung parliament. He forged a cooperation with Raila Odinga, a political deal that culminated into Odinga dissolving his NDP party and joining KANU, becoming its Secretary General on 18th March 2002 in Kasarani. However, the two had a fallout after President Moi handpicked Uhuru Kenyatta as his preferred successor, leading to a Raila Odinga walkout from KANU. And he carried with him serious perennial KANU party loyalists like Professor George Saitoti, JJ Kamotho, Kalonzo Musyoka, William Olentimama, among others. Instead of running for the top seat, his Liberal Democratic Party threw their weight behind official opposition leader Mwai Kibaki, saying they had to sacrifice in order to remove the Independence Party KANU from power, which majority of Kenyans had been yearning for. With President Mwai Kibaki in February 2008, it was a constitutional coalition government courtesy of the National Accord, following a disputed 2007 presidential election results between ODM and PNU parties that resulted in post-election violence. The two settled for a power sharing in. Raila Odinga was castigated by a section of his supporters who accused him of letting them down by surrendering their victory. In his defense, he stated that he had to sacrifice his political ambition for the sake of the country. There are those who ask, why did he settle for less or half?
For the last 2 months,
after the nullification of the August 2017 presidential election results, Raila boycotted the repeat election, accusing IEBC of remaining silent as Jubilee Party amended election laws. What followed was a sustained 4-month civil disobedience whose climax was January 30th, 2018, when he was publicly oathed as People's President.
full realization of the high calling, assumed the office of the People's President of the Republic of Kenya. So help me God.
With the political standoff persisting, the two protagonists, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, surprisingly emerged, announcing a handshake on 9th March 2018. The deal yielded Building Bridges initiative that was seeking to amend the constitution before the courts stopped the move.
Tomorrow is the 20th of March, the day we have been all waiting for. Tomorrow, we want Kenyans to come out in large numbers and show the displeasure with what is going on in our country. All Kenyans of goodwill should converge tomorrow, march together to the center of the city. And once we have gathered to the center of the city, it shall be a grand march to State House to claim our victory.
Enter 2023, and Raila Odinga and his Azimio la Umoja luminaries were in the streets leading a series of multiple weekly protests demonstrating against, among other things, high cost of living and comprehensive electoral reforms. The government condemned the opposition, accusing them of pushing for anarchy, and the outcome of the standoff was disastrous. It was reported that over 70 people lost their lives. The Odinga-led team was castigated to the core.
Kazi ambayo iko saa hii sio kwenda kufanya maandamano. Kazi ya saa hii ni kwenda shambani ili tuzalishe chakula tuweze kuondoa njaa. Mimi nauliza nyinyi watu wa Nyandarua, mimi niwaulize,
hata tufanye maandamano kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni, hata tuweke sufuria kwa kichwa na tuongeze kwa mgongo, bei ya chakula itashuka chini. Si lazima tuwasaidie nyinyi wakulima ndio muzalishe chakula, ndio tuweze kuondoa njaa? Sijui nani atawafundisha wale majamaa wa sufuria kwa kichwa.
A National Dialogue Committee (NADCO) was constituted and held public sittings at the Bomas of Kenya. Citizens from all walks of life were able to participate in the talks.
All powers, all sovereign powers belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be, underline the wording shall, mandatory, be exercised only in accordance with this constitution. The people may, optional, may, optional. That is it, Your Honor.
But in 2024, a crop of young protesters, popularly known as Gen Zs, took to the streets, calling for total rejection of the 2024 finance bill. During this bloody and chaotic season, the youthful protesters publicly asked Odinga to keep off, promising to solely fight off the regime they believed was increasingly becoming insensitive to the plight of Kenyans.
Agwambo, this is a message to you. Usitoke, don't come. Agwambo, please stay at home. We saw your efforts, okay? We saw everything that you did for Kenya. Now let us. We miss you, but Agwambo, please don't even come outside. Don't come outside. Tunatoka on your behalf, okay?
The end result was horrific. Over 60 deaths, continued abductions, massive trail of destruction. During this phase, there are those who blamed Odinga for remaining silent as the government crushed the youthful protesters.
A loud of applause for Baba wa kila mtu.
Raila and the president, this time William Ruto, agreed to have a broad-based government approach to address the thorny issue of inclusivity in government and slay the shareholding narrative. The seasoned politician was again on the receiving end, condemned and accused of going to bed with a regime some felt is oppressive and betraying the Gen Zs.
Raila is totally irrelevant in the Kenyan political discourse because every election cycle, he loses, he finds his way into government. He wants to be in government, but he doesn't want responsibility. Yeah? He is there, but somebody else takes the flak. Right now, he finds things are too hot for William Ruto. He is trying to distance himself. But if he was a patriotic Kenyan and he meant well for our country, he would disengage from Kasongo.
Wakenya wote tuwe na kongamano. Kongamano ili tuzungumuze shida ni iko wapi. Hatutaki kwenda kwa uchaguzi wa 2027 na hasira mingi zaidi. Kenya hii ni sisi zote pamoja. Na sisi tutajenga Kenya hii au tutasambaratisha. Tunasema Kenya wako tayari kujenga Kenya mpya kama wameungana pamoja.
Looking at what was happening after Sabasaba, either on the 8th or the 9th, I called him again, this time to ask him a question. And I asked him as a person who has, throughout most of his life, fought for Kenyans. How does his conscience sit with the continuous bloodletting by the KK regime? I told him I didn't want a discussion. I just wanted to leave it with him. Isn't it time for him to reconsider his support for the KK regime? Isn't it time for him to withdraw? And I reminded him that without him, the regime will crumble, that even parliament would be able to sanction him. And I left it with him.
Wewe uliweka sahihi mkataba na Bwana Ruto mbele ya Wakenya KICC. Mkataba ilikuwa ya watu wawili, Raila na Ruto. Mkataba ulikuwa vyama viwili, UDA na ODM.
That day Raila karibu awawe pipeline. Mimi nashangaa Raila anafanya kama anajali mambo ya watoto. Why should he be in bed with these people? I really get surprised.
Nimemwambia rafiki yangu huyu Ruto
Ili mambo ya vijana kushika hovyo hovyo na kupigwa pingo na kuweka mahali na kuteswa ikome kabisa.
Raila mutates, Raila hubadilika, na akibadilika anabadilika na siasa ya nchi. And every time Raila ni shemegi yangu, he's current. He is always current. Na mimi nataka kuambia nyinyi, kusema ukweli, ni lazima tumsikize Raila. Raila doesn't make mistakes. Na akifanya mistake, anajua how to correct those mistakes. Now you can be only in safe hands mkiwa na Raila. Na alipofikiria ya kwamba atengeneze broad-based government, imeleta ama.
After the protest of June 24th, there was an impasse. And for me, I remember sitting, we were also very frustrated. We were saying, can this Gen Z finish the job? Can they finish the job? Because the country cannot just stay in limbo.
By finish the job, you mean?
Kick him out. That was the rallying call. They were to kick Ruto out.
And yet,
this is what I'm saying.
And yet, after the protest,
this is what I'm saying, Yvonne.
ODM then goes into a working arrangement.
I understand the criticism, but the accusation that we took advantage of anyone is unfair, because there was a period between the time June 24th of 2024, June 25th, and the time Kina Wandai and the others are joining cabinet. And by the way, Baba has been on record, including on that during that interview that you referred to, that he was against these individual members joining government because we had another idea. The idea at that particular moment in time was to have a conversation with William Ruto to have a transitional mechanism that would restore the country back to the people. That was the original idea.
I cannot estimate the costs. But I can say that I'm not worried about those who do not understand what I'm trying to do. I always try to convince them to see the things the way I see them. The Gen Z issue came up.
June 2024.
Just June 2024. Had the NADCO report been implemented earlier, we would not have ended up with the
Gen Z protests?
Exactly. Because the issues that the youth were raising were very similar to the ones that we were raising the previous year. Now, the youth, of course, say that they were out to finish the job. They asked me to stay home. And I did respect their wishes, and I stayed home. I tried to consult among ourselves in Azimio if we could find a way of participating in a broad-based government. I myself was against it. My other colleagues were also against it. But then eventually the group within my party felt that the statement that we had required that some experts who are not part of the Kenya Kwanza regime can go into the government and see how they can help to steady the ship and come up with new ideas to deal with the issues in contention.
He stands accused of remaining silent when many think he should speak out. Whenever he speaks out, some label him as polarizing and destabilizing figure, while there are those who hail him for putting country first at the expense of his personal ambitions. There are those from the school of thought that see him as a shrewd politician who knows when to make a political turn for his strategic reasons. For him, it appears, doomed if he does and doomed if he does not. A case of an individual in perpetual quandary.
Tumeambia polisi, mtu yoyote mwenye atakaribia police station, piga yeye risasi.
Mtu ambaye anachukua moto, anaenda kuchoma biashara ya mtu, anaenda kuchoma mali ya watu wengine. Mtu kama huyo apigwe risasi miguu, aende hospitali, akienda kotini.
Please, you may take your seats.
The broad-based government political deal notwithstanding, as a social justice defender, Odinga has openly said no to government directives that are violations of human rights.
There must be rule of law. That the security forces are there to protect the people. The police are servants of the people, not masters. The police need to be civil to the population. If you have committed an offense, arrest me. Take me to prison, take me to court, and let the court find me guilty and imprison me. But do not use your own weapon to assassinate me. Don't shoot me. Don't shoot to kill. Don't shoot to kill. Don't shoot to maim. Arrest and charge in a court of law. That's what is called rule of law. And we have sat together and reviewed the MOU that we signed this year. And we have now put together a framework to ensure that the MOU is implemented to the letter. This is going to happen. Those who have been maimed, those who have been injured, those who have been in hospital, those who have died, the families of those who have died will be compensated. And we said we go back to just not 2024, 2023, 22, we go back to 2017. From 2017 up to date.
In 2014, Raila Odinga took a 3-month political sabbatical leave and retreated to the United States of America. In one of those days, social media went haywire when a section of Kenyans began lamenting to him under hashtag Baba while you are away, as they poured their hearts out in frustration until his return on 31st May that year.
Mkaweka kwa Twitter, wakaniambia ni baba waliwawei. Sisi tulikuwa tunakufa na njaa, baba waliwawei.
Baba is a name that gained traction and remains his latest political moniker that perhaps speaks to a man whom majority of Kenyans love and hate in equal measure. Whenever he speaks out or enters into a political agreement, he will always be castigated. While some see him as a self-seeker and betrayer, there are those who laud him as a nationalist and a statesman. Or is he?